Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome home. Hopefully it's welcome back to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. We're coming to you live from the lovely state of New Jersey in the United States of America. And our show today is the United Kingdom News and Culture, episode 76. Joining me are our expert correspondents from the UK and also the star of our show, DIANN FLOYD. Where in the world is DIANN today? Hello, DIANN.
Hi, it's great to see you. I am in Austin, Texas.
Fantastic. I said this before, but I really think we need to create a puzzle. You know, where's Waldo? It's where's DIANN? And we have all your destinations that you've been, your pictures that you put on social media, and we put the puzzle together. That would be fun.
Oh, you're so cute. I feel very blessed that we can even think about something like that. But what a great show we're going to have today.
Yes, I'm super excited. So let's welcome our expert correspondents from around the world, Helena Chard, who is traveling. Where is she? Hello.
Hey, lovely to see you. I'm in Gado Agodalia in the wonderful, wonderful place in Paphos. Absolutely stunning, wonderful people, wonderful hearts. You can eat as you're traveling around, as in you can pick your fruit and vegetables from the land. It's absolutely fabulous. And I'm in this beautiful little cottage here filming called Olga's Cottage. And it's just a fabulous place full of love.
Well, you look absolutely beautiful. You are glowing, the wind blowing through your hair. I love it.
Oh, you're too kind.
So you look so relaxed, and I love trees naturally, but that tree behind you is gorgeous.
Yeah,
so
it's olive tree. Isn't it beautiful?
It's
lots of olive trees here.
I absolutely love it.
It's fantastic being able to pick fruit like peaches and nectarines and just everything on the land. Just something, the simplicity, it's beautiful.
Lovely.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for taking the time to be with us today. And joining us also, the king of relaxation and now apparently a fashionista, Mr. Ian Palm Turner. Hello.
Well, I'm in London. I'm feeling miserable. It's cold. It's dull. I'm looking at my colleague who's looking suntanned. She's eating peaches. And me, I'm in this cold flat looking around wondering, what have I done wrong to actually deserve this? Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello. Helena does look like she's only 20. She's so happy.
She does. She looks so beautiful. Let us also welcome our expert correspondent, Simon MacDonald. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. It's lovely to be back again. Yes, I really look forward to these Wednesday afternoons and so on. And oh dear, poor Ian, there he is in the deep south of England and just get miserable. And we've got bright sunshine here in the west of Scotland. It's a beautiful day today. The forecast wasn't so good, and it was the same yesterday as well. It's all happening here. It's so busy now with all the tourists coming up and looking at the registration plates and cars from all over Europe. It's quite incredible. A lot of people about, a lot of very happy faces, delighted to see that we've got decent weather. I was just thinking there what DIANN was saying about where is you this week. I think if I had a map and started putting pins and followed around, it would take on the appearance of a colander very, very quickly.
That's actually a great idea. Why don't we all do that? I'm
my
thinking that
goodness.
Ian maybe needs to go to Scotland to hang out with Simon or go with Helena.
And have a
Oh,
salmon
you can come
finally.
here.
He might even get a little bit of smoked salmon. I had some beautiful smoked salmon yesterday at lunch. Oh, Ian, you missed yourself, boy.
But I agree with Helena. I like the idea we all come there too.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Definitely. You all must come here. Beautiful.
Yeah.
You'll love
If
it.
I can drop down and look like 20 like you, I'll be right there.
I'm just looking at that lovely olive tree behind you. I mean, that tree of that sort of stature must be well over 1,000 years old. I mean, it's older than me. You know, it's got to be old.
It's
You know, it's
I'll
funny.
find
I always
out. I'm
think
not
that.
sure.
Oh, sorry. I always think that when I see trees and you see how thick the trunk is and how long the roots are and how far they've grown and all the storms that they've weathered, all the things that they've gone through. And it gives me strength when I see a tree. And I think, well, okay, if the tree can do it, I can do it too.
Very good point.
By the way, I want to say hello and welcome to Pastor Stephen. Thank you so much for joining us. You all look good, Helena, Diane, and Dr. Jacalyn. What about the guys? How about them? How do they look? Thank you very much.
Especially our
glad to-
Pastor
Glad to join today's presentation, TV Jacalyn. Good to know all of these guests. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Oh,
Very nice. So there's
Lovely.
so much to talk about today. I'm not sure who wants to start first because we've got a fully packed show. So I'm going to turn it over to Helena.
oh, goodness. I thought we were going to go to Ian because there seems to be some wonderful fashion stories that I'm interested in hearing. Actually, no, I'll start then. Something that I was interested in, it also relates, I guess, to Simon too, but a lady called Jamie Aarons, who's set a new world record for scaling Scotland's Munro Mountains. I'm sure Simon knows lots about these mountains. It's roughly 282 mountains, and she did this in 31 days, 10 hours and 27 minutes. And her key to it, which I find fascinating, is 60-second naps. Now, I don't see how that's possible. So she literally, as she was sort of racing around, would suddenly just sort of drop to the floor and have a quick nap. And that's what got her through it. I mean, it's vast. And I know she ascended sort of the equivalent of 16 times Mount Everest. And she actually ran, cycled and kayaked between each Munro. So that's roughly sort of 2,000 miles racing. She is also originally from California. She came over in 2005, so there's a connection there. And in doing this, she raised money also for World Bicycle. It's a World Bicycle Relief, which is a charity that provides bikes for children from poorer nations, and it increases their mobility and obviously then access to essential services. So a feel-good story to start on, I feel.
Absolutely. That's fascinating. If I tried to go to sleep just for 60 seconds, once I lay down, I don't think I'd get back up.
No, I've never heard of it. I've heard of cat naps, but that is really, taking the biscuit. It's something else, but it got her through.
Power sleeping, it's called, and you can be trained to do it. It's quite a sort of technical process you go through. I used to actually do that myself. I had a number of years up in the Arctic as commander in an icebreaker and rescue ship, and we had to do that at times because conditions we were going out after whatever the next job was, then occasionally you would have to literally just take that. 60 seconds was cutting it a bit fine, but I'd do it for 2-3 minutes at a time, and then you actually wake up reasonably refreshed once you've got into the way of doing it. But the Munros in Scotland, yes, those are mountains over 3,000 feet high. If you live in Switzerland, that's barely even worth mentioning. At 3,000 feet, it's not a lot, but it's quite an arduous task. And they're called Munro baggers, the people who go running up and down these Munros and trying to get the lot of them and bag another Munro tomorrow and the next day and so on. So it's quite a popular thing here. So the hills are alive with the sound of snoring, I suppose, every 60 seconds.
That is fascinating that people want to run up a mountain. I can see running down or rolling down a mountain for fun, but
Yeah, it's
go
what
ahead.
they invented helicopters for. You know, I mean,
It's good
That's true.
exercise.
Yes.
It's also good to develop your lung capacity.
I think Helena and I actually know about catnapping as well, because a while ago we were working for another channel, and it was a very hot day, and this lady that we were interviewing had a very monotone voice as well, and I felt my eyes closing, and on a live show I fell asleep. And unfortunately, Helena was there with me, and used her elbow in my ribs, and I woke up with a jolt again. So sometimes, these why I fell asleep, I don't know, but there you go. So sometimes these things happen.
Yes, sometimes they do.
Is anybody sleeping right now? That's what I'd like to know.
Wide awake.
Sorry,
I might
did you say
catnap
something?
after.
I've had me 60 seconds.
I've
I
never
have to
fallen
confess,
asleep
my
like that.
cat. Yeah, my cat naps are much longer. They're actually real live, honest to goodness naps. And with the heat the way it is right now, yeah, the heat just puts me straight to bed.
I don't know how you feel, but don't you sometimes, of an evening, I'm sat in a very comfortable chair and I'm watching a program that I really want to watch, and I just fall asleep. Then I wake up near the end of the program and I'm thinking, what's happened? And I suddenly realize that I've missed about 30 minutes, the most essential 30 minutes of the show. I'm woken up again with a start. So I don't know, perhaps it's old age, goodness knows what it is at the moment. It's it's certainly not down to do to the temperature.
Well,
Yes,
I think we can liven things up with the fashion discussion that we're going to have about sustainable fashion. Ian, you want to lead us through that?
Yep. So basically, yesterday I was at Source, SOURCE, which is sustainable fashion, that has an exhibition and fashion event at Olympia, which is our big show centre in London, once or twice a year. And so yesterday I was there, really and I got recognised, which made me even more surprised. But I was walking around the exhibition, and then with my friend Tom as well, we managed to just grab a little bit of footage, what he did, on some of the sustainable fashion that you can see, that you'll be seeing in the fall and going into winter 2023, 2024. So should we play the video or the images?
Yeah, let's take a look and see. I was watching these last night. They were quite interesting. So let's look at the first one. Here we go. Well, I don't know about you, but I like to start reading a book from the back. So why not start with the finale as the first video?
Well, actually, because I had a ringside seat yesterday to watch some of this going on as well. So I think, and strange enough, afterwards, a lady came up to me, and then Tom, who was with me as well, pointed at her name on her, on her cards, around her neck. And I don't know whether you remember a very famous singer for us, but I don't know whether she was in America, called Heather Small. who was with a group called M People in the 80s and the 90s, and is now into sustainable fashion as well. And, we had a short talk yesterday, and hopefully we'll have a longer talk in the next week or so. And it is interesting because basically what sustainable fashion means, fashion used to be one of the biggest polluters in the world, because basically in the days when dyes were being cast and just put through normal processes in places like India, any of the residue of the dye would just be put into the rivers as just waste. And so it was killing off the fish and all sorts of things. And there used to be a very famous fashion presenter, who went around the world. And I went to his studio one day, and he had something like about 200 bottles, like specimen bottles. And each specimen bottle contained colored water. And as he used to do his travels, he used to take a collection of this water from around the world, and just to show people how bad fashion pollution was. So basically now with fashion, that they've become much more sustainable. They're looking at how not to create issues. They're looking at how to create fair trade for women, especially creating materials in the first place. And so it's a very interesting scheme that is being tried out now for a little while on how to actually create sustainable fashion. Some of the fashion that you saw then, and perhaps some of the imagery, if it's being shown as well, shows how glamorous it can be as well. You know, sustainable fashion doesn't have to be dull, but what it does do is that it gives fashion a new dimension of being able to sort of contribute to global warming and to all other aspects of the world at the same time.
That's fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.
It is, when we first started out as Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn, we had a gentleman on, I think he was from Sweden or Switzerland, and he had started a sustainable fashion line of sneakers. And it was really interesting. We used to run his video clip quite frequently. We'll have to have him back on.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And so obviously things like this, I don't know what you all think, but I think anything at all that I mean, we're listening at the moment to the latest heat waves that are coming. Where Helena is, she's just expecting another one, I think, coming through from Spain shortly. Is it El Nino, or is it really being caused by other issues? But obviously, we are heating up all the time. And I notice in some countries, I mean, China, for example, China won't become totally green friendly, they're saying, until 2060. So, with any of this global warming situations, it is getting warmer and warmer and warmer. And what it's doing as well, apparently, is that with the increase in heat, it's not only meaning a lot of wildfires, for example, but it's also meaning now that there's a lot of floods happening as well in some of these very, very hot countries. And so, when you look at these disaster reports that are being currently sort of shown during this period, we have to take global warming seriously.
I think you're absolutely right. Here in the States, we're having tornadoes and hurricanes in states that are not known to ever have a tornado or hurricane, much less these on the East Coast. There are a lot of floods going on, and there's this like, what happened to our state? This doesn't normally happen. So kudos to Source for coming up with this great idea for sustainability of fashion, because I don't know if anyone's ever looked, and I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts about how much when we, like, I give a lot of clothes to Goodwill to help others, but when we think about how many clothes we possibly give away, so I found out one company actually ships clothes clear across to another third world country. And there's a lot of clothes being shipped all over the world. So if we could figure out how to work with existing clothes and turn it into fashion for today, I think that would save a lot. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it's a good point. And I think
absolutely.
when you think about getting rid of your clothes, if you don't give them to someone, they end up in landfills. And just think about it. All this space is taking up in landfills. So I have a whole bunch of clothes right now that I want to give to someone. And I tried selling them first, which didn't work. But so I'm going to donate them. But it's hard to find places that will come to you. You actually have to go and take them. At least that's what I found.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
there's a
there's
whole
always
ocean full of plastic out there to be recycled into the fashion industry as well. I'm just thinking the fishing industry. One of those young ladies there on the right of your video with that hat that should look like a blushing yeti. It sort of reminded me of the cod end. That's the very tail end of a fishing net, where they've got this sort of shredded cordage to stop the net itself actually getting chafed. So I sort of thought, oh goodness, that's something from the fishing industry is coming fashionable for a change. So, yeah, I mean, really the recycling industry or circular economy, I think, is the modern phraseology for it. I think there is a lot more recycling to be done, and I know with plastics and again particularly with discarded fishing nets, that there's been great advances made with the recycling of that product, and there are clothes actually being made from that now. So yeah, there is scope. We need the innovation and the ideas.
Simon, I just wanted to share with you that as a result of
We do,
the
but what-
discussions.
Everybody knows something.
Simon, I was just going to share that as a result of the conversations that we've had on this show, I actually incorporated in our latest children's book about the nets out in the sea and ocean pollution. And DIANN is one of the characters in the book, and she gets caught in a fisherman's net. So
don't worry, I'll come rescue.
Even it's a children's book. So I'm sorry, Helena, what were you going to say?
It's done now. It's fine.
It's done.
It was just to do with it was just to do with Primark, because a lot of the current clothes, the cheaper clothes on the high street, Primark, are very, very cheap, and obviously it's well known that they're not particularly well made and made of awful fabric, etc. So if we're recycling and giving away good quality clothes, that's great, but still we've got an abundance of new clothes being made out of very cheap quality products, and obviously from a sustainable point of view, that's not good. So how do we stop that somehow?
Well, I think one of the answers is you will know Mr. Selfridge, the American who created Selfridges, and this year they've started doing remodeling. So basically Selfridges in London have got these massive windows right across the front of their building in Oxford Street, and it was all to do with remodeling fashion. So basically what you could do is you can take your existing clothes into there, and as a service, well, they'll remodel them into probably a slightly more up-to-date style that will fit the person as well at the same time. Now, remodeling has been going on in the fashion world for quite a long time. It's quite a big business in London for tailors to remodel clothes. But it goes to show that in times like this, where I think Britain and perhaps other parts of the world are facing financial pressures, then remodeling your clothes and bringing them up to date slightly more may be one of the answers to having better quality fashion in the first place and more sustainability.
Yes, I agree. Ian, it's interesting because DIANN and I had a guest on our fashion, travel, and fitness show. And DIANN, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he shared that one of the major fashion houses in Paris, everybody knows the name, that they will employ up to 80 people to work on one gown. It's a gown that will be worn one time only, but there are 80 people who worked on it. So what are your thoughts about that, about having employment versus the wasting of one dress?
I think as well, one of my best friends was a former royal couturier. And so sometimes, and basically a lot of what she actually designed, she actually used to be able to do as well. In fact, she's now going to, excuse me, teaching those skills to young people to give them hope and a new skill base that they may be able to use in the future at the same time. And her dresses were 10, 20,000 pounds a dress. And they would take, you know, probably 6 to 8 weeks just for her to do it by herself at the same time. So I think, you know, fashion always will be a large industry. Sustainable fashion is obviously becoming much more popular. And I think the reality is now that younger people, they see through fashion trends, and more of them. And now actually, especially in London, are starting to look at, you know, where did that material come from in the first place? How sustainable is it as well? And so, you know, younger people are becoming much more savvy over what to wear. And I get it. Helena's quite right. You know, Primark, which is an Irish brand, but very, very successful as well for really producing very inexpensive items at the same time. But people want to buy them. There used to be a thing called the Arab Summer in London. And then because it was so hot in the Middle East, lots of Arab families would come over in London for the summer period. And this is when the Arab ladies would come and order all their dresses, bespoke dresses, couturier dresses, for their winter season. And these dresses would cost 10, 20,000 pounds a dress. And then somehow they discovered Primark, these ladies. And now, during the summer months, you can't get inside Primark stores in London because unless you speak Arabic, you know, you have to shoehorn your way in because all the Arabs now have discovered Primark, and a lot of the bespoke tailors and couturiers in Knightsbridge, very close to Harrods, have gone out of business.
Interesting.
Very interesting. You know, I have a tip to share that I think is it might be helpful to somebody out there. So I have a couture dress that I got at a discount, which was really nice. And it was probably 20 years ago. And it's sort of a bustier, and then it zips up the back. So as time went on, it wasn't closing too well. So I took it to have it reconstructed, if you will, and I had them take the zipper out and put in a lace that would cross up the back so you could tie it up the back. And then as Father Time started taking its toll, I had straps put on it to keep it up. And then I said, okay, I've done everything I can for this dress. It's time to pass it on to someone else, which is what I did. But the dress lasted 20 some years because of that.
Yeah, because it was quality.
One of the secrets of that, you see, I've become a fashionista. It's the bustier in the first place. So what my friend used to do, she used to actually create the bustiers in the first place. She would actually build that onto the person first of all, and then build the dress around it. So that's why it became so and really, she had a lot of royal clients as well. And she was telling me that one day. She was interviewed by CBS one night, and this is when she was in Knightsbridge, and they were trying to find out what Camilla, now Queen Camilla, would be wearing for her wedding to Charles. And in the window was this beautiful coat, 3/4 length coat, and CBS did an image of this coat as well. And you know what? When Camilla came out from the wedding, she was wearing virtually the copy of that coat in a slightly different color, but obviously someone had actually seen it because the design was absolutely virtually exactly the same. And women were walking past her store days afterwards and thought that was the coat that Camilla had worn.
Interesting.
Wow. That's interesting.
I bet they sewed some coats.
By the way, we do have a couple of other videos.
Oh, we need to show them.
Okay. Let's take a look.
That's my good. The boy is mine. Oh! Hey! Oh! 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 She looking hot,
She was having fun.
She was having fun. I didn't see you in that one, Ian. Were you there?
Well, you know, well, I was probably trying to hide my blushes. Not really. Not really. You know, I was probably trying to tell the cameraman what to. You know, we were about 30 feet apart. He was in the film crew section, and I was sort of sat there, and I was trying to tell him which dress to photograph or to film, or which one not to. So it became almost like in the old days of race courses, they used to do a thing called tic-tac, which was a sign language between the different people who used to take the bets and the people who used to run the tote. And so we were doing tic-tac yesterday on telling him, you know, this is what I want, and this is, you know, how we sort of film something. And hopefully he duly did.
Well, they were fun to watch.
I thought she was running over to you to ask for an autograph.
Well, it was really weird because, you know, do you know something? You never really recognize whether anybody recognizes you or not until you go to events like that. And several people were coming up to me and sort of saying, "Do you remember who I am?" And obviously, you know, that's the worst thing to happen because, you know, Helen and I, we've done 12,000 shows over, you know, 3,000 shows over the past 12 years. So you know, we meet a lot of people in the things, but then they would come running up and tell us a memory, or telling me a memory of when I worked with them. And for me, you know, these days, you know, I have to sort of rapidly think who it might have been, or what even show it might have been as well. So, but it's nice to be recognised. Bless them, you know, and at least they were happy to talk to me as well. So obviously we did something right. But you know, as I say, but when you go to shows like this, it makes you feel good afterwards, because you can see the excitement, you can see the values, you can see Britain, especially at its best. You know, when we're doing this sort of type of fashion work as well, and so you know, this is the type of thing Britain needs every single method we can at the moment of creating the right images, creating the right brands, and selling ourselves to the world.
Absolutely, yes, definitely. I'll go 100% with that. Yeah, brand images and so on. I think the images of here are somewhat tarnished at the moment on the global platform, but yeah, we're open for business. We're here. It's the same people, so we keep going.
We do have a comment from someone on YouTube, Charmaine Suddy. Thank you so much for watching and for writing awesome show. We appreciate you being here. We'd love to know where in the world you are if you'd like to share that with us. And also Director Stephen from Uganda, Africa, on behalf of His Grace Orphanage Ministry. Thank you, Director Stephen, for being here.
I can tell you now that Charmaine is in South Africa.
Okay, so you know Charmaine.
Ah.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thanks for watching, Charmaine.
Good.
So what are some other royal news that's happening? Or is this the silly season? Are we there yet?
Yeah, but you know that I don't know what people think about this, but there's this sort of subtle question of etiquette. And I don't know whether people watched Wimbledon. I know it's over, done and dusted. But I know each year my mother takes a week off, whatever she's doing, to watch Wimbledon, and it's a really fun time. So as I grew up, I was also was really excited to watch Wimbledon. But it's sort of when Hollywood royalty meets royalty, and there was a situation with Daniel Craig and his wife Rachel Wise, I think it is, and they were in the royal box, and Kate Middleton, future Queen, arrived, and there's this slight unhappiness with certain people that they sort of sat there looking up at her as she was sort of coming into the royal box, but they didn't, you know, I think they sort of smiled, but they in people's eyes they should have stood up and sort of greeted her, not done a curtsy or anything silly like that. What do people think? Or do you think it was okay for them to just sit there and she just walks in?
No, they should
Interested in
absolutely
people's
stand up. Absolutely stand up.
Whenever a lady walks into the room or walks into your box, whatever, then stand up. It's just good manners. You know,
Amen.
apart from etiquette with somebody from the royal family, when you definitely should stand up anyway. But if a lady goes into the room, stand up.
I agree with you.
I think the problem at times, though, is that you know, people like Kate, sometimes she doesn't want to be that well recognised, you know, when she's coming in, and she doesn't want to cause a fuss either. And I get exactly what Simon is saying. I get exactly what all of you are saying. But sometimes they get so much of it that you know, that they just want to have a normal time there as well. So you know, I think you know, I mean, it goes back to a very similar type of thing when I think it was Vanity Fair called me out on an NBC show because President Trump hadn't bowed to the Queen.
Oh, I remember
and the reality was that's not etiquette anyway. You know, a foreign dignitary doesn't have to bow to the Queen. He can shake a hand, or he may bow if he wants to, but it's not a necessity. And I remember having to go on to another show and talk about that. You know, it might have been nice, but this is not. And I couldn't imagine your President Trump at that time bowing to anybody. You know, you know, to actually do with the Queen. So I think royal etiquette, it is difficult. And at times royal etiquette has been called out, you know, where don't touch the Queen used to be part of it, where there was a very famous time when she was in Australia, and the Prime Minister of Australia thought it'd be a very good idea to guide around all these dignitaries with his arm or his hand on her back. And he was called out for this as well. You know, perhaps we need to get Philip Sykes on sometime to talk about the do's and don'ts of don't touch the royals.
What do we think about Djokovic smashing his racket? Is that proper etiquette, or is that normal after you spend all that time playing? And
well, he got fined over £6,000 for it, so I'd say it's not normal etiquette. It was quite an expensive racket, that, at the end of the day.
Yeah, but I mean,
it was a John McEnroe moment, wasn't it?
Yeah,
there you go.
When you're looking at how much these guys earned, I mean, one guy got, I think, to the quarterfinals, and he earned £300,000 just to get to the quarterfinals.
Wow.
You know, so I don't know what the because I think Helena will probably know better than this, but I've got a feeling that isn't there parity these days between male and female winners of Wimbledon singles? But it's obviously a lot of money, and I know they have a lot of expenses to pay out of that. But I think I was surprised when I saw that. I didn't watch because I was out working as usual, But the reality was, when I saw it, it wasn't typical of Djokovic, and I was very surprised. But there again, he's trying to, isn't he? And again, this is only my very vague knowledge of tennis. Isn't he trying to create a new record for having, is it 23 Grand Slams? Including Wimbledon, and I forget who's got it at the moment, but he needs one more to actually become the all-time great for Grand Slam. So Helena might know. One of you much more intelligent people may know what the answer to that is.
Not me.
I don't know what the answer is there, but obviously I think to act out in such a way, I mean, obviously there's a lot of passion and upset to do something so, I don't know, so visual for the whole world to see. It's yeah.
I suppose
whether it's right or wrong is another thing.
I suppose probably the thing that got to him is Djokovic is 34 now, 37. I forget how old he is now. And this young man was 20, isn't he? Or he's in his early 20s. And so perhaps he's seeing the future coming up behind him now. And that's probably the biggest frustration of the lot, because athletes want to go on forever but can't. And so how do they retire with grace, and move on in their lives? And it must be, for football players, soccer players in Great Britain are one of the few professions where they are allowed to take their pension, if they want to, in their early 30s, rather than waiting to the end of their lives. Because at the end of a football career, a soccer career, that they could never find another, comparable job again. So I suppose sometimes when you see the future in front of you, and you realize that you're starting to slow down, and that you remember when he was that age, and what you were doing then, and now he got beaten, that's probably a massive blow to the ego, if nothing else.
I'm sure it is. But I also think with these tennis players that they have, right after they retire, they can become commentators, right? They start talking about what it is that they see. So it's not like they have to go off to the pasture and just count their money and cry.
Yeah, but it is psychologically, I think, a very hard thing to have that realization come to you. So,
when you think about football players, and they've been smashed around for years, I think that's a different kind of retirement than the tennis players.
I've always thought that I was very lucky because, I've done journalism in one form or another now for 57 years. It's one of those career patterns that perhaps they will cart me off in a box one day, but you never know. There might be a microphone inside it anyway. So.
And here is Ian from heaven,
coming to you from the coffin. What we see in here is very dark.
Wouldn't that be a show? I know the answer, folks. I know the answer.
We don't want that show. No, definitely.
No, we don't want that show.
Well, we have come to the end of our time for today, and I'm excited to announce that on Monday, we are launching a new show called Planet Earth, myself and Roland Friedel, and our special guest will be Simon MacDonald, and he will be talking about wind turbines. So stay tuned for that. Very exciting. All right, let's go around and share our thoughts with the audience as we close out for today. Simon, you look like you're ready as always with a quip or a joke.
Well, just the quote of the day today is, again, perhaps aimed at our elevated listeners. So, courage is what it takes to stand up and speak. But courage is also what it takes to sit down and shut up.
Woo!
I
Yes.
love it.
I love that too.
Bravo.
That's excellent. Thank you. Let's go over to Anna.
Nothing as clever as that. So I would like to say there are some wonderful exhibitions in the UK at the moment, and there is a wonderful exhibition at the Tate called Capturing the Moment. So I think it's always lovely to take yourself off somewhere and learn and see something new. And I think there's something in capturing the moment as well that's so special. And, you know, it's all about all those special moments and literally capturing them. I think this is to do with paintings and it's sort of overlapping.
I think she froze.
She froze in there. And I have to say, and she won't be able to hear me, but I watched the show on the big screen television, and she looks absolutely stunning. She looks stunning with that background and that color in her skin. It's just amazing. So
Glowing.
sorry that you won't hear it now, Helena. All right, over to you, Ian.
Well, you know, I wake up every morning and I feel, thank goodness I'm alive. I count my blessings all the time, and I tell everyone else around me as well, is that, you know, when you have a great life and a great style and a great vision and the excitement, you know, I mean, Jacalyn and I, we've been talking recently about some new things that have been happening as well. And it is probably the most exciting time to be in broadcasting at the moment, and the new visions and the new values that channels like USA Global TV and affiliates will be working on now as well, and the incredible performance that and the amount of time it takes. I take my hat off to Jacalyn all the time, and to DIANN as well, and to all of you, because in reality, to have produced something really from a start platform like this, I am so grateful to be part of it.
Oh, thank you. That's really beautiful. And Helena's back. Thanks. Thank you, Ian. Helena, you missed what I said about how gorgeous you look on the big screen TV that I'm watching over here. So you have to watch the show later and see it.
Thank you. Oh, that's very kind.
You. All right. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Helena. Thank you, Simon. Over to you, DIANN.
There's so much I could say. Politeness. It doesn't take much for people to be polite to one another. But Helena's tree is so gorgeous, and it reminds me how much I love trees. I've even written some poetry about trees. And so I would like everyone that's listening and watching to go find a tree and hug it and sit underneath it and close your eyes and just relax and find joy and peace and happiness under a tree.
Thank you, DIANN. That was beautiful. Thanks. And for my announcement, I'm going to share my screen. And I'm super excited for those of you who haven't seen it, that we had a press release that came out on Sunday about the fact that we have partnered with E360 TV. And I want to give a big shout out to Mr. Ian Pelham Turner, who's really been a fabulous mentor helping through the whole process. And as a result of this, we will be streaming onto other platforms such as Roku, Apple, Amazon, Samsung, and Android devices. And also thank you to Ian for brainstorming with me. We've come out with some new offerings for people in the age group between 18 and 35. If you'd like to have your airtime for 5 minutes or 15 minutes, we have something for you in addition to all the other offerings that we have here. So we want to be very inclusive to people around the world, maybe people who are on a budget. You can get yourself out there, promote yourself for a 5 minute or 15-minute clip. So we welcome everyone. So thank you very much. And thank you to everybody for being here and for all your support and friendship and love. And that's all I have for today.
Bye, everybody.
Our next show is coming up. It's Global Social Entrepreneurs with Anne Scotland. So please stay tuned for that. And we'll be back on this show next week. But before we go, I'd be remiss to say that we have a fabulous sponsor. Who is it? It's Diann Floyd BOEHM. Woo! Thank you, Diann, for your sponsorship. Let's take a look at one of Diann's clips, and then we will be back, as I said, right after this.
Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to Story Garden. Your host, Diann BOEHM. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Diann Floyd BOEHM tells wonderful stories that warm the heart, spark the imagination, and unite people and families across generations. For children, Diann's Harry the Camel connects with all of us who've ever wondered how different our lives might have been if only we'd been born something better, like a wonderful horse instead of an ordinary camel. In the end, we all learn along with Harry that there's nothing better than just being yourself. Diann's Little Girl in the Moon looks down on earthbound children and wonders if they know she's just like them. A story of love, home, and the bond between mother and daughter, its powerful theme that we're each of us different yet all of us the same plants a seed in children that promises to blossom within a loving and trusting grown-up. Diann's new biography, Rise, recounts the experiences of her grandmother, Ruby, to reveal the hidden strength of the human spirit. Ruby's story inspires all of us to become the best versions of ourselves. You'll find all of Diann's delightful books and much more at DiannFloydBOEHM.com. Visit DIANNFLOYDBOEHM.com. That's DiannFloydBOEHM.com.